The first time I met Sharon Vandal, she was standing in my driveway like she owned the gravel under her heels. Arms crossed, nose-wrinkled eyes locked on my RV like it was a crime scene. "You can't have that parked there," she said, sharp enough to cut sheet metal. "It violates our HOA aesthetic guidelines." I stared at her for a second, then laughed once because there was no way this was real. Then I leaned on the fender, chewing on a toothpick like my uncle used to do when he smelled trouble. "Sharon," I said real calm, "I'm not even in your HOA." Her blink was slow, offended, like I'd spoken the wrong language. "Excuse me." I pointed past my barn down the dusty access road that ran behind my property and disappeared into the trees straight toward their gated little kingdom. "That road your homeowners association uses every day, it cuts through my land. I just inherited all 200 acres from my Uncle Walter, and I've got the deed and survey to prove it." For a second her mouth opened, and nothing came out. Larksour Ridge was one of those neighborhoods where every mailbox matches every lawn is cut at the same angle, and people get fined for having the wrong shade of mulch. Sharon was the kind of person who wore a pantsuit like it was armor and talked like she expected the world to stand at attention. Uncle Walter, God rest him, never cared that they used the road. He let them use it for free for decades because that's who he was, an old-school don't-make-enemies-unless-you-have-to kind of man. But Uncle Walter also didn't have Sharon Vandal marching up his driveway threatening to fine him for visual pollution on land that wasn't even part of her precious homeowners association. And the second she tried it with me, I realized something. She wasn't asking. She was testing. 3 days later I got certified mail. A letter from the HOA, all official fonts and bolded threats claiming I had 7 days to cease and desist obstructing HOA access or face legal action. Attached were grainy photos of my RV, a chicken coop that wasn't even mine, and a highlighted portion of their bylaws like it meant something out here. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my coffee. Then I wrote them back, one sentence, black ink, no emotion. "Your access road sits on my land. You have no legal easement. We can negotiate one." That's when the game started. Sharon called an emergency board meeting and invited me to attend, like I was the one on trial. So I showed up in jeans and a flannel still dusted with sawdust from my workshop. Sharon sat at the head of the table in a crisp pantsuit, acrylic nails, tapping a stack of printed bylaws like she was about to pass judgment. "This is a serious matter," she said, and the way she said serious made it sound like a felony. "The Homeowners Association has used that road for over 20 years. That gives us prescriptive easement rights." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "Not if my uncle gave you permission," I said, and I slid a manila folder onto the table, which he did in writing. Dated, signed, notarized. Found it in his files. The room went quiet. A couple board members exchanged looks like they'd just realized they were standing behind the wrong person. Sharon's face flushed red right up her neck. "Then we'll fight this in court," she snapped. I shrugged like she'd just threatened bad weather. "Sure, but while you're in court I'll be putting up a gate. Until that's settled, nobody gets into Larksour Ridge without a long hike through the woods." That's when the panic hit. Someone knocked over a cup of water. Another board member whispered, "Call a lawyer," like it was a prayer. I stood up slowly, stretched my shoulders, and let the silence hang for a beat. "Or," I said, "you pay me a fair monthly fee for easement rights. $2,000 a month. Guaranteed access 24/7. Otherwise, consider the road closed by Friday." Sharon's jaw clenched so hard I swear I heard teeth grind. I walked out before she could recover. By Thursday, they paid the first month. The second month came around and Sharon didn't show up herself. She sent the vice president, Alan, mid-60s, polite handshake, a folder under his arm, the kind of guy who looked like he'd rather be fishing than dealing with Sharon's mess. We sat on my porch, sweet tea in mason jars. He glanced at the jar like it might violate some rule, then finally took a sip. "We've been looking at the budget," he started, "and $2,000 a month is, well, it's not sustainable long-term. Residents are asking questions. Some of them think we should build a new road." I raised an eyebrow. "You're welcome to try. But unless you've got a bridge crew and a few million in spare change, that creek and those granite ridges aren't going to cooperate." Alan's polite mask slipped for a second. Didn't realize it was that bad. "It's worse," I said. "The only other way out runs through wetland. Army Corps would laugh you out of the building." He exhaled slow. "Sharon's not going to like this." "She doesn't have to," I said, and I meant it. But after Alan left, after the dust settled, after the first checks cleared, I sat alone in my kitchen and stared at that number, $2,000 a month. And for the first time a weird thought crawled under my skin. What if they're right? What if I'm the bad guy now? Uncle Walter let them use that road for free. Was I dishonoring him? Was I turning into the bully, just with better paperwork? That doubt hit harder than I expected. I even caught myself thinking just for a moment maybe I should lower it. Maybe I should let it go. Maybe peace is worth more than pride. Then I saw the survey flags, bright orange planted along the edge of the access road like breadcrumbs. At first I told myself it was nothing, maybe utilities, maybe county work. But the flags didn't stay on the gravel. They veered off, into my woods, toward the creek. The next morning 2 workers in hard hats showed up with clipboards and a ground scanner walking my land like it belonged to them. "Can I help you?" I called out. One of them barely looked up. "We've been contracted by Larksour Ridge HOA to assess the feasibility of an alternate route." My stomach dropped, then turned cold. "On whose land?" I asked. He checked his clipboard. "This parcel." I held out my hand. "Permit?" He hesitated. And then he said the exact wrong thing. "We were told by the board that this land was under HOA jurisdiction." I didn't yell. I didn't need to. I pulled my phone out and pointed at them like a weapon. "You've got 10 seconds to leave before I call the sheriff." They packed up fast. My doubt vanished like smoke. That afternoon I drove straight to the county recorder's office and requested every recent filing connected to the HOA. And tucked between a fence variance and a landscaping complaint was the thing that made my hands start shaking. A recorded easement agreement, backdated 3 years, with my Uncle Walter's name on it. Only problem, it wasn't his signature. I knew his handwriting. He showed me once, proud as hell, how the loop in his W always dipped twice. This one dipped once, shallow, wrong, lazy. They hadn't just pressured me. They tried to steal my land. I made copies, drove to the sheriff's department, and asked for Detective Graves. Graves didn't interrupt. He flipped through the paperwork slow, the way a man does when he already knows the answer but wants to hear you say it. "You're saying they forged a legal document to claim a permanent easement over your property," he said. "That's exactly what I'm saying." He leaned back, tapped the folder with his pen. "This isn't just a zoning issue. This is criminal fraud." The next day, deputies served a subpoena at the Larksour Ridge clubhouse. Sharon tried to intercept them at the door, hands up, voice high, acting like they were delivering the wrong pizza. Didn't matter. Graves walked in behind them like a storm. A local paper ran the story within the week front page, big bold headline about an HOA president under investigation for land fraud. And suddenly the neighborhood that loved rules and control started turning on itself. I installed trail cams after that, not because I wanted trouble, because I didn't trust Sharon to go down quietly. And sure enough, one night around 11, my phone buzzed. 2 figures with flashlights creeping along the edge of the access road. I called Graves. By the time deputies arrived, the pair retreated, but not before one of them tripped a wire I'd strung between 2 stakes. A flare exploded to life, lighting the hillside like a 4th of July finale. Next morning, Graves reviewed the footage with a tight jaw. "One of them's definitely William Clean," he said, the HOA's lawyer. "Already on bail, already violating orders, still sneaking onto my land like he thought consequences were for other people. This puts him back inside," Graves added. 2 days later, Sharon resigned. And for a second I thought, maybe that's it. Maybe she slinks away, hides behind lawyers, calls it a misunderstanding. Then my camera caught something else. A beat-up sedan, no plates, rolling up past dusk. A man in a windbreaker stepped out holding a metal pipe. He walked straight to my gate, sturdy steel, bolt-cut resistant lock, and started smashing the hinges like he was paid by the swing. I clicked on my floodlight. "Evening," I called out, calm as ice. He froze. I stepped off the porch phone, recording heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. He didn't say a word. He bolted, jumped back in the car, and peeled out tires, spraying gravel in a wide arc. I caught the last digits on a county auction tag stuck to the windshield and sent the footage to Graves. He called the next morning. "Car was reported stolen 5 days ago," he said. "We picked the guy up. Says he got paid $500 cash to take care of a lock. Met someone in a parking lot. Burner phone. Tools. That's it." I stared out at my property line while he talked, fingers tight around my coffee mug. "And the burner phone pinged near the old Larksour Ridge clubhouse the same night," Graves added. His voice went colder. "Guess who's still been using that place after hours?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The investigation dug deeper, and it got uglier. Alan called me one morning, voice low, like he was afraid the truth might hear him. She had 2 sets of books, he said. Expenses for landscaping that never happened. Invoices paid to companies that don't exist. Reimbursements for board retreats, straight into her pocket. So it wasn't just land. It was everything. She fined people for shutters and garage lights, and the money went into accounts under her name. And when the case finally hit the courthouse, the building was packed. Reporters, residents, people whispering like it was a funeral. Sharon walked in wearing a navy suit that looked like it had been slept in, wrists cuffed in front of her. She didn't look at anybody, not once. The district attorney listed it all without drama: wire fraud, document forgery, conspiracy to commit trespass, misappropriation of funds. Then came the nail in the coffin, a sealed affidavit from a former board member who flipped, handing over emails that showed Sharon had been skimming money for years. The judge leaned forward. "Is the defendant prepared to enter a plea?" Sharon's attorney whispered in her ear. Sharon didn't speak at first. Then she lifted her head, eyes blurry, face tight, pride finally cracking in public. "Guilty." No speech, no excuses. Just one word, and the sound of her power collapsing in real time. Lesson: if you don't defend your boundaries, someone like Sharon will try to redraw them for you.